Okay, hello. Today I'm here to talk to you about the looming shadow over the creative world, AI, and whether authors need to view it as a threat or as a tool, or maybe a little bit of both. In my opinion, it's a little bit of both. First of all, yes, AI is in our world and it's here to stay. You just can't ignore it. So you're either going to have to learn to work with it or you're going to have to oppose it. I don't think opposing it is going to fix the problem. I do think we have to think long and hard about how to regulate it and how to shape it, to use it as a tool. I don't think, as it is, sort of a wild west of the creative world is going to work because there's just too many unknowns and too many questions about the legalities of it, for one thing. Because AI may not be as safe a thing to use as you think, as far as copyright and other things pertaining to authors. And we'll get into that in a bit. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is the writer aspect, and then we're going to move on to the artistic aspect as pertains to, say, book covers and other things like that. Okay, so of course, the writer aspect, you've got the infamous Chat GPT and various programs that are similar to that. And authors are using it to write books, or they're submitting AI generated short stories to magazines. The Clark's World debacle is the most famous of those. And so, of course, people are misusing it. Big shock there. People misusing a tool. So, yeah. So basically, it's not the AI's fault. It's the way people are using the AI. And actually, you shouldn't be using it to write your books or to write your stories, because the simple fact of AI is that AI does not create anything. AI simply regurgitates what it's learning in different forms. It doesn't it doesn't innovate anything, it imitates. So you're not getting something creative, you're not getting something new, you're just basically getting word spew. Um, Nice word spew in a lot of cases, but word spew nonetheless. So using it to write a book or using it to write a story, it seems counterproductive to me, because you're going to have to edit the thing anyway and rewrite it and make it into something palatable that people will buy. So why not just do it yourself anyway? I mean, really, it makes no sense to me, but eh, it is what it is. However, it does make some sense to use it in other ways to help your author career, because these AI things are good for SEO keywords, and we all know how authors love SEO keywords, don't we? So things like that. It's also good for writing blurbs or tweaking blurbs. In fact, Kindlepreneur's blurb generator now has an AI add-on that you can use to tweak your blurb a little bit. I would be careful with that. I mean, don't overuse it, because it does cost them money. They are letting you use it for free, but it does cost them money every time you use it. So don't abuse the Kindlepreneur AI. But do use it, because it could help you if you're stuck on maybe a line or two that you don't think is quite right. Maybe AI can help you with that. So there are things you can use AI as a writer um, to enhance your work, especially in the marketing area. But you really don't want to rely on AI for research or facts, because if the AI program you're using does not know something, it will make stuff up. And it will make stuff up that sounds convincing. There are several examples across the internet of people doing experiments and discovering this. So, yeah, don't rely on it for research, or if you are doing research on it, double check your research very thoroughly. Okay, and also AI has a built-in bias and a limitation from its data set. So if you're using AI either as an for art or for writing, it's only as good as what information has been fed into it. So if it doesn't have the information, it's not going to give you anything that's of any use or any value. So be aware of that. If you're using AI, it's limited at this point. So that's basically the writer AI. Because I mean, I haven't really been using the writer side of the AI a lot because, well, like I said, I don't see any point in using it to actually write a story or write a book. I like doing my own blurbs. I may be the only author out there that does. And yeah, the keyword thing, I have been thinking about using it because, yeah, I hate keywords. So every author hates keywords. So yeah, then so I'm not too expert on the writer side of using AI, but however, I have been dabbling extensively on the artist side of AI. Not for commercial use. I want to make sure I have not used any of the AI stuff I've generated for any book covers or anything I'm selling. No designs, no art, no anything like that. That is all my own. From the book covers are from stock images, and I have been very careful, or at least as careful as I can be, about using AI generated stock images, and we'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so first of all, you don't want to use a solely generated AI image for a book cover because AI images at this point in time cannot be copyrighted. So you can use an AI image for your book cover, but anybody can take it and use it. They can steal it and you can do nothing about it. So just be aware of that. AI images are not copyrighted. So, and you also need to be, if you were like me, or if you were hiring an artist, you need to make sure that they are not using AI images in the covers they create, as far as they know. Now, there are a lot of AI images on stock image sites. Some of them are being generated by the sites themselves, and they are clearly labeled, or you can remove them from the search when you do searching. But I have noticed that there are images uploaded by people that are clearly AI generated because you can see the mistakes, you can see the flaws, you can tell that they're AI generated. So when you're looking for stock images, be careful and make sure you pay close attention and zoom in on those images to take a look and see if they are in fact digital art or AI generated art. You can tell, sometimes you can't. So it's pretty much a crapshoot these days. Anyway, so there's that. And if anyone has been following the SPIFBO, the self-published fantasy blog off lately, you'll know their cover contest hit a bit of a controversy where one of the artists actually used partially, I don't think the entire cover was AI generated, but partially it was. There was a image used or something. I'm not clear on the details because they weren't really disclosed. But so that cover and the cover contest clearly stated that you could not be eligible if the cover was AI generated. And he lied on the application. And what's more, he lied to the author. And he's lied to a couple of other authors who specifically asked for no AI generated images. So apparently, allegedly, I mean, I don't know the whole story of what's going on, but allegedly this is what the artist has done. So you're going to have to be careful about that if people are lying about using AI to generate their covers and work. So be aware of that if you're buying a book cover and be careful. So if you trust your artist, then yeah. And if you're doing your own covers like I do, again, be very careful what you're using off the stock sites and do your best. Who knows, mistakes do happen. Anyway, and I would not entirely sure. I have to do some more research into this about the copyright of a cover that only uses a partial AI. Like, say you used an image that was AI generated and you didn't realize, or your artist didn't realize. I would think that cover would be copyrighted since you're not the entire image isn't AI generated. It's been it's an entirely new image, even though part of it was AI generated. I would think it falls under the same sort of principle, excuse me, as using the AI tools in, say, like Photoshop. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the legalities on that. So that's one thing you have to worry about with AI generated book covers, and I would advise against using a solely AI generated image for your book cover. Also, the big controversy, of course, with AI images is artist compensation. People are learning from artists using their styles and whatnot. And that's a bit of a gray area, in my opinion. Now, I fully support artist compensation, but other artists copy styles and use other artists' images for references, and they don't compensate the artist for it. So, like I said, there's some gray area there, I think, as to compensation. And we will get into compensation later when I'm talking about Adobe, because they're doing something interesting that I think people should know about. So yes, there's a certain argument there for compensation. There's also a certain argument against it. So yeah, we'll let the big corporations waggle that, and the artists themselves. And definitely think that AI should not replace our writers via the writer strike. That's one of the points there. So yeah, AI should definitely not replace writers, because AI is nowhere near as interesting story create tellers as writers are, and that's just it. You're just going to get regurgitated crap if you use AI to write your TV shows and your movies. People, don't do it. So also so with the artist compensation, there is an argument there. I expect somewhere down the line there's going to be some sort of a thing worked out, some rules and regulations put on as to what can and cannot be done. I think the biggest argument for artist compensation is when people actually take an artist's image, upload it to one of those sites. Because think Dolly, I'm not sure if Midjourney you can do it, but I think you can do it with Dolly. You can upload an image and then create a new image based on that. Now that I would think has some copyright issues with that. So again, that's the whole the thing with the artist compensation is these companies aren't being very forthright, a lot of them, as to where they're getting their images. So we don't know whether they're using public domain images, whether they're using copyrighted images, how they're using it, and how they're training their AI. So this is what the big stir is really about. And until that information comes out, we really don't have enough information to say what's going on. And they really should be more transparent about what they're doing and how they're doing it. Because by not doing that, they are, being a little suspect. And again, going back to the writer issue, you've also got the contracts now are putting AI learning into some of their contracts. So be careful about that when you're reading it. Findaway Voices is the most famous one of those, who snuck in an AI learning clause in their audiobook contract, saying they could use your audiobook to train AI narrators, and they didn't ask anybody, and it was an automatic in, and you had to opt out of it. Yeah, that was really underhanded. Gotta say, not good. If not a good look, Findaway Voices, not a good look. So now we're going to talk about the other thing on the schedule, which is Adobe's new AI. Now, you may have heard about Adobe's gotten into the AI generating images with its Adobe Firefly, which is in beta. And it also has a new thing, which is also in beta, called Generative Fill. Now, I think both Firefly and Generative Fill is the right direction as far as AI images go, because this, of course, is if Adobe is actually going to do what it says it does going to do. You never know with these corporations. But Adobe is training its AI on its stock images that it already has. So these images have been licensed. They're under license and whatever with Adobe. So it more or less has the rights to use it. I'm assuming it's artists. Maybe the artists have an option to opt out, or maybe they will in the future. I'm not sure how it's working exactly, except they're just using Adobe stock images to train their AI generator. Now, I've been playing around with Adobe Firefly, and I'll show you some of these images I've been doing a little bit later. But actually, it's a fairly decent one. I mean, I haven't played with the big guns like Dolly and Midjourney, mostly because their copyright issues are iffy, because they're pulling off the internet, and I'm not sure what they're doing, so it just makes me a little nervous. Because I mean, it would be fun to play with, but it's really not something that's usable as far as, I mean, maybe you can use it, like, for little social media things, blog posts or whatever, but yeah, not the greatest thing in the world. Now, you can't use Adobe Firefly images for commercial purposes because it's in beta and it's been tagged, watermarked, so but I've been testing it out just to see what it does and what it can do, and so far it's been pretty good. I've enjoyed it, and they've added, and it's a lot easier to use because you don't need to learn all those terms like 8K resolution, blah, 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 because their generator has a sidebar on it where you just click what you want. You can click fantasy, you can click steampunk, you can click hyper detailed, you can click watercolor, and it will change. It's not the best yet. I mean, it does a decent job, does a really good job, but it does have trouble still. It's still learning. It's still in beta. So we'll see how that goes. But what and Adobe's model is, like it says, it's using its own stock, but it has stated that it plans, once they get the learning and they get it out of beta, to compensate the artists that are giving them the images. So there is that. Then hopefully Adobe has a plan in which to do it. I've heard some speculation that they're going to be, once the Firefly comes out of beta, um, there'll be a little bit of a charge to use it, and then they can give that money back to the artists, blah, 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 that sort of thing, which is fair. Um, but what's really interesting coming out of Adobe right now is their generative fill. Now, I haven't tried the Photoshop version that's only in Photoshop Beta, not in the regular Photoshop, but I have tried the generative fill that has been added to the Adobe Firefly. And basically, generative fill can allow you to take an image and change things in it. Say, like for instance, I was creating a book cover for a historical London book, some Victorian horror thing I was making or whatever. And I found the perfect image, except it had the modern day London wheel in it. With generative fill, you can take that image, um, put a selection around that image, and it will remove the image. It will generate something else there instead of the wheel, and you can actually adjust it to get your perfect image, which is good because I mean, Adobe Photoshop already has various tools similar to that. Their remove tool is like that. You can actually remove things. Their delete and fill, similar. You can delete it and fill it with the background. Their neural filters also have a certain amount of give and take and different things, colors and whatnot as well. So Adobe Photoshop is, a lot of their tools are already AI based. So the generated fill is just kind of the second generation of that. But what's interesting with the generative fill, you can also build your image from scratch. So it is itself an AI generator. Now, again, this is only in beta. You can't do that with the Adobe the generated fill with Adobe Firefly, but you can do it in the Photoshop beta. So it's an interesting way. And again, that seems to be the generated fill seems to be heading towards being added to Photoshop. So another interesting tool to use for artists. So that's actually something that could be helpful, an AI generator that could help artists create exactly what they want or exactly what authors want for their book covers. So I think that's the step the in the right direction with AI art. Now I'm going to show you some of the AI stuff I've been doing in the art and let you have a look at what it can do and what it can't do. Now this is Adobe Firefly stuff. Mostly. Okay, this first image is actually this is one of the stock AI generated stock images. This is downloaded off Pixabay because Pixabay is now flooded with AI art, so be careful. Most of it's marked with AI generated, so you can tell, but just yeah, there's a lot of it on there. Pretty stuff though. Okay, so this image, this is the AI generated original image I downloaded off of Pixabay. Now, I did a little alterations in Photoshop. You can see in the background here, this is the alterations I did in Photoshop on that picture. But if you see the coffee cup there on the side of the table, that was added with generative fill in Adobe Firefly. Now, this image was created with Adobe Firefly. Not a bad image. Unfortunately, the headband and the black strap was what Adobe Firefly thought was an eye patch. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to show you what I did with the generative fill add-on with Adobe to get the eye patch. So now you can see that's a lot better. I used the generative fill add-on with Adobe Firefly to remove the weird band and put in the actual eye patch. So, and okay, now we're going to show you a steampunk picture here. So this is a steampunk picture. Now you can see the airship. I added the propeller and the undercarriage there with generative fill. The white figure there by the restaurant is also added with generated fill, as is the little robot on the other side. And just let me turn that banner off for a minute here. And you can see the little robot dog by the cart, and the man by the cart also generated fill, as is the car in the middle of the road with the two passengers. That was also done with generative fill. So, and this last one is also steampunk. The original image was done with Adobe Firefly, but I added the goggles in generative fill as well as the rose and the hat, because the original hat in that picture was awful. I also put in the eyes in the monster machine there on the side, as well as a couple of extra tentacles um, too. So that's what I did with that's what I've been doing with generative fill. So you can see a generative fill is actually might be a nice tool to be able to use in future from AI. So that's my discussion on AI, my thoughts on AI. And I hope you enjoyed this bit of author advice. And that's all for now. Bye.